they don't want any of that discussed because that gets you into very dangerous territory where you might be called a neo-Nazi if you start talking about that. That's what they do. But it's more than that because this is part of a much more sinister global push. We've spoken about it. I've reported on this here on this program. Our e-safety commissioner, who comes to us from the United States. We've also got in the European Union, we've had efforts just this week to fine X massive amounts of money if essentially they don't go along with the European censorship regime, which basically means don't talk about mass immigration. Yep. Don't talk about ethnicity. Don't talk about welfare. Don't talk about crime. Don't talk about the fact that, hey, it's Christmas market season. Why are there all these big concrete bollards around the things? Well, it must be for traffic control. They're talking about all of that sort of stuff. And that censorship is part of a global effort to shut down the First Amendment in the United States, which is the precious guarantor of liberty around the world. This is a hill I will absolutely die on. Domestically, though, the fact that this coalition was so harebrained that they don't see the opportunity here and, in fact, pushed this. And I can tell you this, the federal Young Nationals have just passed a resolution to say that they oppose the under-16 ban. And it's like, guys, coalition, what does every headline say? What does every poll say? You've got a problem with young people. Young people you've got this issue right here where you could have said, no, young people, we are for your right to be on social media and use the internet as you choose. And yet they squibbed it and they backed this whole thing in. Again, they've just missed yet another opportunity.
Well, we had a video talking about the lawsuit on Meta and Google. And basically, you have situations where the verdict could end you being anonymous online. Yeah, that's right. And this is here in the United States. This is going on. It's not the UK or that, which what's going on in the UK. But now you also, because we saw this in the UK, we saw this in Australia, we saw this in several different countries. Even in this country, we're seeing some of the laws and they're expanding it. There are states out there that is posturing toward banning minors from social media. And the thing is, you have to remember, if you're 13 and under, you can't sign up for social media. But then, that doesn't stop them. But if they're talking from 13 to 17, even the ones younger, you're violating the Constitution. You're telling them, in other words, how can I put this? Okay, let's take it from a New York point of view. Say, for example, they're telling you, oh, it's a bad time. If you go to Times Square, it's a bad place to go for children. It's basically there's so much that's going on there. Children should not see it. So what we'll do is we will block the area out and check your ID every time you come in there. So that means they're checking everybody's ID as they're going into Times Square. So you're telling me I cannot go into Times Square if I'm younger than 17? Because there's some great shops and the movie theaters and all that. So you're denying me access and services. That violates the Constitution. You can't tell someone to say, hey, listen, you guys stay out of here. We are not in a police state. We have a Constitution on there. So we're going to read this from AVM. States posturing towards social media bans for minors. State lawmakers in many jurisdictions across the United States are now posturing towards social media bans and strict regulations on minors using them. Two proposals in California and Missouri are noteworthy as they reflect efforts in countries like Australia and the United Kingdom to completely restrict under 16 from social media use. Such developments add to the overarching regulatory discussions on age verification. that have plagued the First Amendment debates for years now. In a California bipartisan team of lawmakers has introduced a legislation that would prohibit the use of social media for users under the age of 16. Assembly Bill 1709 sets forward a covered platform age restriction for social media platforms with prohibitions on under 16 creating and maintaining accounts on such websites. Which websites are you talking about? Guaranteed they're going to do the same thing as the United Kingdom and Australia. This proposal, modeled after the age ban adopted, now listen to this, by the government of Australia, which bans social media use for the same targeted groups of teenagers. This primarily sponsor of AB 1709, Democratic State Assembly Josh Lowenthal of Long Beach, in February, State Affairs reported that California, Gavin Newsom, appeared to be in support of this legislation. Understand, this is Australia. There is one woman out there in Australia that is running this, besides Collective Shout. And the thing is, she used to be an American. That's right. She used to be an American. And she's been living in Australia for quite some time now and has been pushing for censorship in Australia, the United Kingdom, and all over the world. This is when I tell you, this is interference from out of country actors. They're working with certain people in this country. That would be a violation. How many times have you heard that when Donald Trump was running for office, that they said he was being backed by Russia or China, which wasn't true. But here we have that situation, which we know that it is happening, and that basically nothing has been done about it. Reading on, Lowenthal said in a report, "I'm deeply grateful for Governor Newsom's willingness to speak out on this issue. He is someone who is above all else leads as a dad. His family faces the same worries as mine and the millions of other Californian families who are exhausted and heartbroken by very real harmful effects of social media on our children." No, they're not. Gavin Newsom is in trouble right now. You've seen the articles. They're about to pull him in on the situation with Medicaid fraud. If there goes anything like what Minnesota, there's going to be issues coming. He doesn't care. This is the governor who during COVID told us to stay home while he was partying with his friends at a big restaurant with wine and everything. Think about that for a minute. Earlier this month, Politico received a policy position document from Governor Newsom's spokesperson, Tara, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, Gallegos, stating that the governor supports social media age bans. The governor announced support for age bans after attending a global summit with the world leaders like the World Economic Forum and the Munich Security Conference, which he was a joke there. And the world, don't even get me started on the World Economic Forum. They are another issue in itself. He discussed social media regulations and age bans with key international leaders, including Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez of Spain. Sanchez's government announced its intent to deploy an age ban on under 16s, shared his government's position in an address at the World Government Summit held in Dubai earlier this year. "We support balanced evidence-based solutions that strengthen protections for young people, equip parents with meaningful tools, and ensure accountability across platforms," said Robert Boykin of the tech industry trade group TechNet in Los Angeles Times reported on the Lowenthal bill. He added, our companies have made a significant investment in team safety and parental controls, and we remain committed to building on that progress. This doesn't mean that TechNet supports the legislation and potentially restrictions on the activity that is typically protected by the First Amendment. If the bill becomes law, it will enter into in force to 2027 and will be one of the largest restrictions on social media age usage in the world. California has a population of near 40 million people, while 27.2 million are subject to a national prohibition under Australia's federal government. Critics of the Australian social media ban and its nationwide age verification measures indicated that age gating technology developed, commercialized, and sold by the companies represents by the age verification providers association can misidentify ages of people under 16. Remember that. The technology is garbage. It is a problem. It's hackable. It's happened already. The executives of large social media platforms remain consistently divided on social media ban. For example, Pinterest executive officer Bill Ready promoted a ban on social media for minors under a certain age in a guest column for Time, utilizing Australia in his argument to advocate for those regulations. But Pinterest, you have to be over 13. Same thing like every other social media. About pretty much all social media platforms, and even the broadcast ones, you have to be over the age of 13 to use it. Critics calls bans paternalistic and unworkable. Reddy wrote, others point out that social media can offer connection and community. That's true. But today's products are often too paired with those benefits with serious harm. There's always dangers everywhere. Even if you go out, hang out in the park, go to a nightclub, restaurant, go on vacation, there's always some sort of danger everywhere. It's that we have to identify it and remove it before anybody gets hurt. But by destroying the process, by saying we got to ban them out of the vacation spot or we got to ban them from the park, it doesn't work. Unwanted outreach from strangers, constant comparison, body image pressure, bullying, and exposure to content even many adults struggle with. Understand going into this, the Psychiatric Association has even said that social media addiction is not, they do not recognize it. The same as pornography addiction is not a recognizable diagnosis. And has been. Same thing with gaming, same thing with music, same thing with television and movie violence. This is a sentiment that has been pushed for many years now. It goes all the way back even when I was a kid. They've always said this. Before even gaming came in, before the internet, they always said stuff on television is affecting children. Such sentiment is shared across the United States, and state legislature Missouri is following the same trend. Democratic State Representative Marty Joe Murray of St. Louis introduced House Bill 2392, which would ban people under the age of 14 in the state from creating social media accounts and would require verified consent from parents from 14 to 16 years old. Another proposal in the Missouri legislature from Republican state Don Matthew of the town Crocker is similar to Murray's bill, aiming to require parental consent for 16 and 17-year-old and bans under 16 from holding social media accounts that are not attached to their parent or guardian. Murray and Matthews' bill empowers the Attorney General to impose penalties up to $50,000 per violation and allows parents or guardians of affected minors to pursue damages through civil lawsuits. The Missouri proposal comes as legislation advances in the state to codify pornography age verification in the state statute. Despite a non-legislative regulatory intervention issued by former state Missouri Attorney General Andrew Blakely in 2025 and further championed by his replacement Catherine Hanaway, lawmakers in the Republican-controlled state legislature want a requirement codifying in the state statute to make future repeal harder. No, it's not future repeal. We have SCOTUS. You're not gonna block SCOTUS on this. See, here's the stupidity on these politicians on both sides of the aisle, the judges in the courts. They think that basically they can override the Constitution. The Constitution is there to protect us for situations like this. That's what it was built upon. This country was built on freedoms. We've worked hard for 250 years to get where we are. Now they want to take us back down again. You have the United Kingdom trying to pressure us as if this was in the 1700s again. I'm sorry, United Kingdom. We did win the war. You do not have control over us here in America. Try and send your police to try to arrest us here. They're not coming back. They're going to be arrested. They're going to be put in jail because they have no jurisdiction here in the United States, no matter what you say. A Supreme Court will always defend us. That's what they're there for. And see, you got those on the left. They want to change the pattern of it because they're not getting their way. Well, guess what? It's going to stay like that. There are those, like I said, on both the right and the left that are causing this because there are out-of-state actors out of the country that are doing this. They're pumping the money in. Places in Australia, United Kingdom, China, those places that they're pushing into our country, trying to change our laws, trying to destroy the Constitution. So let me know in the comments below, what are your thoughts about this? Don't forget to hit that like, share, and don't forget to subscribe. So until next time, thank you for tuning in. Be sure to check out all of our affiliate partners listed in the description below. It will also be shown in the end video. So until next time, thank you for tuning in. Be sure to check out Madman Cafe every Tuesday right here on YouTube or on Rumble, 3 p.m. Eastern live. So be sure, fight for that to get rid of censorship. Stay mad, stay cool, and we'll see you at the next one. Bye-bye now.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, check out our merch shop and affiliate partners. See you next time.
So, you stayed at speed. Here, it's our frequency. You strengthen the signal. Our merch is waiting. Check the link. Stay tuned.
You are still here? Before you go, be sure to subscribe. See you next time.